Sign it for me, please. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, although Bill probably doesn't need an introduction. As you saw, he is a member of the Pace Rotary Club, and Bill told me he's got 6 years of perfect attendance, which is wonderful. Bill was born in Holmes County, halfway between Sweet Gum Head and Leonia, wherever that is. He graduated from Poncegan High School. He was a valedictorian there. Attended Chipola Junior College, Troy State, and then graduated from law school at Florida State University in 1972 with honors. From 1973 to 1975, he was a felony prosecutor in Santa Rosa County, and then for the next 26 years, he was in private practice, devoting his practice to criminal defense and plaintiff's personal injury. A number of you will probably remember this really tragic case where two young men, two boys, killed their father, the King brothers. Bill was the mediator in that case, and it's one of the few murder cases that was ever mediated, and Bill did that very successfully. Can't believe that he was elected in 2004. It seems like yesterday, but Bill replaced Curtis Golden, who was a long-standing state attorney for the First Judicial Circuit, which is from the Funiac Springs all the way over to Pensacola, about 700,000 people. Bill's office has approximately 80 assistant state attorneys and total employees of about 240. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Bill Eddins.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here. I came early and had an opportunity to meet with, to speak with several of you that I know, and I'm looking forward to visiting with you, tell you a little bit about my job, tell you a little bit about our office, how it's structured, some of the duties that we have, tell you about one specific case, the Billings case, a little bit about it, and then give you an opportunity to ask questions. Before I get started, I was going to explain to you an old political proverb. Never mind. My office serves 4 counties, as Adam indicated. We have approximately 75 lawyers now, not 80. We have approximately 235 employees now, not 240 because of the recession and budget cuts. We operate our office on a fiscal year basis from July 1st to July 1st. And this last year, we had 12,579 felony referrals. That's from July 2012 to July 2013. We had 30,567 misdemeanors, 2,965 juvenile cases, and many other duties that that we prosecuted. We didn't prosecute all the referrals we get. Some of them did not have sufficient evidence. It's our job to screen those out and not prosecute. One of the things that I'll mention early on is that, as you know, most of our office is staffed by very young lawyers. We have supervisors that have a lot of experience, and then we have a lot of turnover among our young lawyers. And one of the things that pleases me is the young lawyers come in, and we have great young lawyers. We have lawyers from some of the finest law schools, some of the finest grades. They stay with us 2 or 3 years and get trained and learn how to find the courthouse, how to try cases, and then they move on. One of the things that I try to tell each young lawyer is this is the best job you will ever have, other than mine. And the reason I say that is it's exciting, it's interesting, and your job description is very simple. It's to do the right thing. And I tell them it's just as important to throw out a case that isn't there, that doesn't deserve to be prosecuted, as it is to vigorously prosecute a case that should be prosecuted. I've given you a little bit of an example of our workload. I'll tell you a little bit about homicides. I'm sure some of you are interested in that. I checked before I came, and we have approximately 50 defendants in the First Circuit facing murder charges. We had 49 until this morning when I learned that a young 8-month-old baby was killed in Okaloosa County, and the defendants will be charged with that murder. In Escambia County, we have, out of those 50, in Escambia County, we have approximately 31 defendants presently facing murder charges. I did not include 6 DUI manslaughter cases in Escambia and Santa Rosa, and about 4 other DUI manslaughter cases in Okaloosa and Walton. So we have about 10 DUI manslaughter cases pending where drunk drivers kill someone presently in the 4 counties. Those totals remain fairly constant. We have real good young trial lawyers and some very experienced trial lawyers that we assign to try these homicide cases. We're so fortunate, it's unbelievably fortunate to have in the First Circuit the quality of lawyers that's prosecuting in your community, and I'm very proud of that. I'll tell you a little bit about how our office is set up in more detail, and then I'll talk to you and tell you about one case in particular that I was personally involved in, and then I'll open the floor up for questions. The way our office is structured, about a little over 50% of our personnel is in Pensacola office. This is our main headquarters, and it's in the courthouse. We have over 100 personnel here. Our primary administrative staff is here, as is a large segment of division lawyers and special prosecutors. We have juvenile prosecutors out at a different location. We have one of the things that I'll digress and tell you that I'm proudest of is that in the First Circuit of Florida, every child that gets physically or sexually abused is prosecuted by a special prosecutor through a child advocacy center, either here in Milton or in Nashville. And that has been very, very effective for 2 reasons. One is we have experienced prosecutors to prosecute those cases. And the other one is the concept of the kids' house, as some of you probably know, is instead of taking the kids to the different services and different places they have to go to, you bring all the services to them and you house them in a facility that is decorated for children. It's like they're at home. It's very colorful. And for example, the one in Milton, the examiner in there examining there is a polar bear. So we feel that that's been a very effective system of prosecuting those kinds of cases. We have an unbelievable number of physical and sexual abuse cases pending in the First Circuit. We have 6 special prosecutors throughout the circuit that do that. We have definitely over 100, probably 150 cases approximately pending of either physical or sexual abuse or failure to register cases, which we include in those. The way our office is set up, I explained to you, we have special prosecutors that do homicide, we have special prosecutors that do kids' house, special prosecutors that do juveniles, we have special prosecutors that do other types of cases as well. The DUI manslaughter already mentioned. Economic crime led by Russ Edgar, who's as good a trial lawyer and prosecutor as there is in America. And he's been with the office for over 30 years, and he's still, I watched him just a couple of weeks ago prosecute Joey Floyd over in Crestview, who's a captain in the Crestview Police Department that we convicted of being a dirty, crooked cop, convicted of racketeering, and he's facing up to 30 years in prison, and we're going to do everything we can to see that he gets every day out. We're going to recommend that to the judge on October 2nd when he's sentenced. In Santa Rosa County, you have a county supervisor and basically the same setup. In Okaloosa, you have a county supervisor with a similar setup. And in Walton, because it's a small county, we do the same thing. And those county supervisors report directly to me. I have Greg Marcel, who's the chief assistant and also executive director. When the recession hit, we eliminated the position of executive director and combined those, and Greg assumed both duties as chief assistant and special prosecutor. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to you how deeply I feel that our office is really blessed to have someone with his experience and his capability with us. He's been invaluable to me since I've been in office. He worked with Mr. Golden for several years, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I was smart enough not to mess with that relationship. So that's just a little overview, and maybe it'll give you some ideas of some questions you may want to ask. I will tell you a little bit about the Billings case. I've talked to another Rotary Club, and they seem interested, and other groups have as well. That was interesting to me for several reasons, one of which was that we successfully prosecuted 7 people for murder and 1 for accessory after the fact to murder in that case. I don't know of anybody that's prosecuted more people for 1 killing anywhere. The other thing that was important to me is I personally participated in that case at a number of levels. Our office is set up so that when a homicide occurs, law enforcement, wherever they are, will contact an assistant who will go out to the scene most of the time. In that case, on July 9th, when the murder occurred, David Rimmel was with the office. He's now circuit judge in Santa Rosa County. David went out, and the assistants report to me every homicide scene they go to and every homicide matter they're handling. He called me the next day and indicated to me the facts of the case, which, as you know, involved the 2 parents of the 9 children being killed. And I continued to monitor that case, even though I went out of town for the weekend. And when I came back on Sunday, by then they had publicized the red vehicle. What they'd done is discovered that the family had a camera system. It wasn't a video recording, it recorded it took a picture every 3 seconds so they could keep up with those children. And they identified the fact that a red van had been used in the killing because it was on the camera. It was caught by the camera system looking out the front. They put it on the media, published it in the media, the newspaper published it, TV published it. They located the owner of the red van as a result of that being publicized. Where the red van was, and it was with Leonard Gonzalez Sr. On Sunday, he was brought in, July 12th, he was brought in to the sheriff's office to be questioned about that. And we expected that, and we had developed enough evidence to charge him with accessory after the fact. And we expected that's what he would be charged with because we developed information that he bought some paint and started painting the vehicle, and he had it hid behind his house. I decided to contact the sheriff's office, went down to the sheriff's department, and determined that while he was talking with them, he was not being honest. He was BSing them, is the words they used. I'm paraphrasing. And so I asked the sheriff if he thought it might be helpful if I spoke with him, and he decided it could do no harm, which I decided I would speak with him. So I did, and indicated to him that who I was, that I was the state attorney, and that my office would be prosecuting these cases, and that we knew there were a large number of people involved from what we'd seen on the videotapes. And we knew that sooner or later, some of them were going to talk and confess and tell on everybody else. And I knew that he wasn't being truthful, and I knew that, as I said, somebody would be. And I wasn't going to be there for about 5 more minutes. And our office decided who we choose to seek the death penalty against. And I found in matters of this nature that it's always better to tell the truth. And the train is leaving the station, and if you want to get on it, all you've got to do is tell the truth. And he started BSing. I'm paraphrasing. And I told him I was leaving, so I did, walked outside and told the sheriff, and the sheriff and I discussed it. And Sheriff Morgan and I agreed that we'd go ahead and arrest him for accessory after the fact anyway, since he obviously wasn't going to talk, so we did. And the high bond was placed on him, and we went back and told the investigators that were working with us what we'd done. And one of the investigators, senior seasoned investigator, was very upset. He said, "Now you've earned it. We'll never solve this case. This man's not going to talk to us. We could have eventually got him to talk, and here you've earned it." And just as he said that, a knock at the door came, and the door opened, and the fellow said, Mr. Eddins, Mr. Gonzalez Sr. wants to know if you would possibly come back and speak with him again. So I did, expecting him to confess to being, he was an older man, hard life. And I expected him to tell me about being an accessory after the fact. But when I sat down and gave him his rights, he laid out the whole crime. And it was very difficult for me not to act or be surprised. And so from there, as most of you know that followed it, we were able to round up the rest of the people. Some of them confessed, some of them didn't. And of course, for several days or a week or two, we worked 16, 18-hour days. We dealt with the national media. And that was an interesting part of the investigation as well. Then we had to start prosecuting the matter. The interesting thing to me was I've never handled a case of this magnitude, and under the law, the public records law, once discovery is filed with the court system, my office is obligated to provide it to the defense lawyer. In this case, we had about 10,000 pages of discovery. And once I provide that to the defense lawyers, it is a public record, except for the confessions, which we do not release because as a prosecutor we have an obligation to ensure the defendant is going to get a fair trial. I had 36 media requests for those documents. So I had to provide 360,000. And I went to Greg Marcel and said, what are we going to do? And he solved the problem along with my MIS people. We uploaded the documents to a website, gave the media people some kind of key to get on it and print them. So we solved that problem. Then the next problem was that the media felt they have a right to the autopsy photographs, which were very visual and very chilling. And again, as prosecutors, we have an obligation to protect the defendant's right to a fair trial, and so we would not release those. So we had a hearing in front of Nick Geeker. And I digress here to say two things. First of all, Nick Geeker handled all 8 of these cases. We tried 4 of them. He just did an excellent job. The people in this room in this community are so fortunate to have had Nick Geeker as a trial judge in these cases. And I digress even further to tell you that we have a special place in Northwest Florida. The judiciary and the legal system here, in my judgment, is far superior to the legal system in the rest of Florida. I feel like that we still have the professionalism and respect that we knew as young people. So Judge Geeker ruled that they weren't entitled to publish those photographs, but they were entitled to see them. And so I go to Greg Marcel and say, how are we going to do this? And so we put the photographs in a room, and we allowed the media to come in and basically wouldn't allow cameras in the room, and basically, in effect, search them and have them go into the room, and they could look at the photographs. And actually, somebody may remember, somebody drew pictures of it. They could make drawings of it, but they couldn't take copies of it. And that worked successfully. The thing that I mentioned here is that what was significant to me was even the national media, which it's difficult dealing with the national media, let me just say that. But even they were respectful. I thought for a time it was respectful of me, but as I reflected, I realized it was the judge's order, Nick Geeker. And so we got through that part of it, and then we began to try the cases, and Nick Geeker tried Gonzalez Jr. first. And I participated personally in that trial, and it was really a simple trial, and it was an effective trial. We obtained the death penalty, argued the death penalty recommendation, and the jury voted to give him the death penalty, which Nick Gicker did, which he, in my opinion, deserved. That case is still on appeal. It goes automatically to the Florida Supreme Court. And I went and watched the oral argument by the defense trying to say that the judge made a mistake. And based on what I saw that day, I'm convinced that that conviction will be upheld. I would expect an opinion anytime between tomorrow and several months from now, based on the schedule the Supreme Court keeps. All 7 of the other defendants have been either pled guilty or have been convicted and sentenced, and their convictions have all been upheld. I will tell you that it put great stress on our office, because at the same time, in addition to the standard, and I use that term loosely when you're talking about other murder cases and child abuse cases and DUI manslaughter cases, the standard workload we had, the Okaloosa County Sheriff and 5 of his employees were charged, and Russ Edgar prosecuted and convicted all 6 of them while this Billings case was playing out as well. In addition to that, there's some other interesting cases, and then I'll take questions. Last August, we had a former lawyer, Harvey Tipper, that decided he wanted to hire someone to kill Russ Edgar. And so I was on vacation. I flew back in, and we worked on the case, and we sent in an undercover officer, and another lawyer named Whitehead was in jail, and we prosecuted both of them for racketeering. They were in jail together. Whitehead came to us and told us about it and agreed to wear a wire, and went in and talked to Tipper about it and recorded the conversation. And we prosecuted him successfully. Bobby Elmore did, and convicted him, and he was sentenced to 30 years in prison recently. And then I mentioned Joy Floyd as well. I think it's important as a prosecutor to, when a police officer or law enforcement officer violates the law, it's important that we take a strong position in those cases as well. That's a little bit about the office, a little bit about some of the cases. At this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Yes, sir.
How many cases would you prosecute in a year?
Sure. How many cases will you prosecute in a year? Each felony lawyer prosecutes in a division, the routine cases, not homicides, not child sex, not the DUI manslaughter, takes in about 30 new felony cases a month. It's unbelievable. The system, the criminal justice system in Florida and in the nation, as the federal system as well, is under tremendous stress. We, as a county court prosecutor, every month, 20 working days, you have over 100 cases coming in. So now, our special prosecutors carry a caseload of between, if it's homicides, about 15. If it's serious, I call them gun cases, about 30. If it's child sex cases, this is a pending caseload at all times, of about 30 to 50. That varies widely. Yes, sir.
Bill, thank you very much. And I want to tell you that we've been trying hard not to waste your time and Greg's time lately. But we appreciate what you're doing. There's a big part that we've got in working with you. I spoke a couple weeks ago about detention, and I think most people don't realize it costs the taxpayer a lot of money to put those people through, and then it takes a lot of issue on the backside in containing them and rehabilitating them. Clearly, the cases you mentioned up at the top, those certain issues, absolutely, your office does a great job prosecuting everything else. I think the question becomes, on the other side, there is a cost to us in detaining and rehabilitating. How do we work through that process and figure out how to do that in a more efficient way?
I've been asked that question before, and my normal answer is that I just put them in jail. But that's not really accurate. As I said earlier, I think it's just as important that we throw out a case as it is that you prosecute a case that needs to be prosecuted. So that's part of the answer, is that you try to filter and try to keep the people that don't need to be in jail out. That is a really is a very difficult, very complicated question that is not easily answered. There are systems in place, the federal system, I forget the name of the program, Greg, you may know, that is being presented here tonight at the
Re-entry program.
it is a re-entry program, and that is a great program. And I believe the state of Florida is moving toward, the legislature is moving toward providing more money and developing a better support for the re-entry, or in our case, the last few months in prison. They've developed some programs to get them ready to get out. And I believe in that, and I think that's very important. Crime in America has gone down for many, many years, and I firmly believe it's a result of the mandatory minimums and the focus in this area on the very serious crimes. The 10-20 life has, in my judgment, continued to cause crime to go down. There is a cost to society, but it's a cost that I believe we just must bear. Yes.
Yes, I was wondering, a lot of times with sexual predators, especially against children, it doesn't seem like they're really able to be rehabilitated. And I've noticed that, I Googled some stats, and let's say the rate for an adult, it could be a 9-year minimum or life. It could be for a child 15 years. Now, if they have good behavior and get out in half that time, then what is the solution to possibly make those sentences stronger so that they can't hurt our children? Because it's almost the same as murdering their soul.
I'm glad you asked that question. That is a good question. First of all, let me point out that in Florida, whatever their sentence is, they must serve 85% of it. As it relates to children, we have strengthened the laws the last few years. As it relates to adults, that's a much more complicated question, because your fact pattern with the adults and the older children, 16, 17-year-old children, gets very complicated. I will tell you that we have a system in Florida in place called Jimmy Rights. When you go to prison, when it comes time for you to get out, if you have certain indicators, they can examine you to see if you are a sexual predator and should be kept in prison even though your time's up. And that program, in my judgment, was very effective in 2000 when it was first implemented. Over 200 people were held back and provided treatment until they're treated until either they are certified, so to speak, to get out, or it's determined that they're basically just not going to get out. However, since then, our Jimmy Rice program has not been as effective. Last year, only about 12 were held back. Representative Matt Gates, whose father Don's the president of the Senate, has focused on this very serious problem. And he reports to me that last year, 1 out of 150 sexual offenders that is all that was held back. I believe that he will have hearings and introduce legislation to once again strengthen our Jimmy Rice laws. Okay? Thank you very much.
Bill, thank you very much for coming and sharing what your office does, and Greg, thank you for coming here as well. I think we can all agree that in 2004 we elected a true public servant, and Bill, you're doing a heck of a fine job. We'd like to give you this fine china to come back to our club. I know you remember the pace to come back and visit us. We appreciate that. David, can you do this? Sure.
And we're also going to donate a book to a local school in your honor, something a program we began this year. And so thank you again for coming here for that wonderful presentation.